Hey everyone, Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you again. So watching this line of storms move in, straight line winds for anywhere from basically 60 miles per hour to possibly up to around 70 moving through central Oklahoma, starting to approach the Oklahoma City metro area like Piedmont, and it'll be up in Edmond and then up to around Guthrie and of course Kingfisher and all that kind of stuff. So we'll take a look at that. Plus there was probably another QLCS type tornado that had started to develop. So a tornado warning has been issued for that one just for a few more seconds for its what may still be around. So let's take a look here at the radar view again for you. It's up around Marshall. This is where the tornado warning was issued, just on the east side of town. This comes right up along Highway 74, where it splits south of 74B or County Road 59. So that's the last location of where this little circulation is going to be. Again, that's on the east side of Marshall by about a mile on Meridian Avenue. So that is where your tornado warning currently located there. Put the motion for you, or the movement to the east at about 48 miles per hour. Radar indicated, so these little QLCS type tornadoes usually don't last long, but it's for southwestern Noble County, northwestern Logan, west central Payne, southeastern Garfield to 11:15. Storm capable of producing a tornado located near Marshall, moving east at 50 miles an hour. Tornado in golf ball size hail. Marshall and Orlando. This includes Interstate 35 between mile markers 173 and 185. So that's the wording on this particular storm. So it's Orlando 1056, Stillwater 1118, and Glencoe 1127. Now, keep in mind, even though these track alerts go out for the next 30 to 45 minutes, the tornado itself won't last long. It's usually only a couple of minutes at most. And they're very difficult to find. They're very small, very weak. But anyway, so that's what's happening right now east of Marshall. So heads up there for the tornado warning in central Oklahoma. Okay, so the other big ticket item is this line of storms that's now beginning to push along the I-35 corridor from Crescent to Cashion to Piedmont. And just like in the storms we talked about up north, same idea. These little areas where you see the blue is up around 60 plus miles per hour. So in some cases they can be up to 70. They can be up around the 80 mark. We've seen some earlier this evening around 90. Now the 90 didn't make it to the surface, but some of the 70s and certainly near 80 did. Here in Kingfisher, also very windy out there for you right now. A lot of these values are up into the mid to upper 80s. Now keep in mind we're probably going to be at a pretty good distance aloft. Let's see, about 3,000 feet. So frictional forces, etc. We're going to reduce the wind field that you're going to measure on radar because of that. Even down here, closer to Piedmont, 2,400 feet. So again, these values here, which we're seeing up around 85 to 90 miles per hour, you will not get that kind of wind. You will probably subtract at least 10 to 15 miles per hour from that. So 70 miles per hour looks a pretty safe call. So that is the latest right now as far as straight line winds are concerned along this line. Now obviously you're going to get a little bit of rain with this, which is good, but you will notice that the wind element component for this is actually kind of on a leading edge out before you get the heavier rain that'll then follow afterwards. So it's kind of like a 1-2 thing. The movement on this, for this line itself, we'll take it into, let's see, we've already got these guys on the path already. We've already seen it. So now we have Yukon, 1054, of course Piedmont right now, Minco, 11 o'clock, Bethany, same thing, War Acres, Guthrie, just after 11, the Village, Nichols Hills as well, and Edmond and Tuttle and Oklahoma City, all between now and about the next 20 minutes. So this will be a thunderstorm, squall line event at the tail end of it, so you will get some pockets of wind on the southwest side of it, and you will get this little mini section of some straight line winds here, which kind of clip the northern sides of the Oklahoma City metro, pretty much running along the line from Piedmont to Edmond and then points north. This is the favored zone to get those type of straight line winds up around 70 plus miles per hour. Now, we'll see as we get a little bit closer to the radar and we get more measured underneath the beam at the lower levels as to how well those winds are being measured, closer to reality where we live. But aloft, a couple thousand feet up, that is what's happening right now.
TVS cell detected.
Okay, and so of course
Severe hail detected.
the algorithms trip on a squall line like this with tornado vortex signatures all over the place. None of these are accurate. It's just a lot of wind on a bow echo structure, so it's just a failure of the algorithms to perform correctly, so it's not a big deal. But again, the only thing we had with some slight rotation was the one that was around the Marshall area earlier. We can see if that is even still there. Let's go here to this guy. The circulation part, let's see. Make sure I'm looking for something. That's probably what it was. Okay. The circulation part of this really is getting more difficult to find, and that's not unexpected. That usually happens quite often. It's just where you see this little triangle. That's usually where the last known algorithm location of the storm was for. Let me look at a different view from northwest Oklahoma. Yeah, same idea. Okay, so that circulation center has really weakened quite a bit. Didn't last long. There's just a little notch right here where it was turning yellow. See, there wasn't anything from Marshall. I guess about a mile or two on the east side. You get that little note, and then that's gone. So let's try this other radar. Same idea. Let's back this up. Yeah, so it's very, very weak. All right, so again, may have had a brief QLCS type tornado. There's a lot of wind in and around this, so tornado or not, you still have some good winds on the east side of 74 and 51. Highway 51 and 74, this little blue zone, again, that's winds estimated right now on radar several thousand feet up, but it's still up around 80 miles per hour. But that's going to be the location. So it's Northwestern Avenue, Pennsylvania. This is just north of County Road 63, south of County Road 61. So it kind of gives you an idea of where those are going. So kind of in toward the Orlando and Mulhall area. Now we have the rest of the line itself, which is going to have pockets of wind buried within that too. Let me see if I can get a good view here. All right, so we'll switch back over to a couple other different views. So the terminal Doppler weather radar is showing this line of wind begin to move through western Edmond and the Lake Hefner area. So I've got a wind gusting just now of 47. You can see on the screen there live on your bottom right corner of your screen for my Tempest weather station. So that's an instantaneous weather reading. All right, so 47, 50. So I have a 50 that I just hit. All right. So what we'll see is how well. So I took a 53. How well the radar estimations do with actual the values of what I'm receiving. So the radar is estimating, and this is going to be up around 1700 feet on the leading edge, and it's estimating winds up around 60 miles per hour. There's some in here around 60, obviously we get higher than that, 74. So we're not seeing the 74. I had a 53. We'll see if they get stronger once I get into this other color shades of blue, the darker blues, which are in the 70s. We'll see how well that comes down the surface. But it's like Thursday. If you remember Thursday, we were doing the exact same thing. All I could get was a 50. And tonight I've had at least a 53. So we'll see if they get a little stronger. But you do see a lot of darker blues and purples, which is wind speeds up around 90 miles per hour. Up here between Piedmont and Cashin in an area that's around 2,500 feet elevation. And then we'll see how that translates down to the surface once it transfers more to the east. Okay, again, the tornado warning up here, the residual circulation features right along Highway 81, coming between Orlando and Mulhall and west of 77. Let's see. Last known circulation on Coltrane Road and East Road 630. So probably good gust there. So I'm getting occasional downburst winds. Again, you can see on the bottom corner of your screen that was 46 from the northwest. But still 53 is the most I've gotten. Okay, anyway, so that is the location of the last known circulation for that QLCS tornado, which is really kind of gone, but that's the residual area. So you can stay in your shelters until this storm has passed your region. It's pretty much running right along 51 between Orlando and Mulhall. So if you live in that area, Next few minutes, it'll quickly be through you. So heads up there. Otherwise, no other tornado warnings in the state. We just have the severe thunderstorm warning down here in southern Oklahoma. I know you guys are going, what's going on down here? Same idea. You have these pockets of wind. Like here's one up around Colgate, west of you, this little bright color reds at 70 miles per hour, for example. So you still have some winds aloft that can get pretty strong down here in Milburn. So way down in southern Oklahoma, east of Tishomingo. But nothing tornadic that's showing up right now on radar, and there's no type of warnings of that nature. Okay, so back here in the metro. All right, so some of these numbers. Okay, just took a 52, and I think I heard some plants take it on the chin. That's not good. All right, let's see here. This is a wind of 86, 84 miles per hour at 1,600 feet, and that is on West Edmond Road and 74, so it's Portland, or 74, and Edmond and 192nd. Right, so that's where this little packet or pocket of strong winds are. Now we'll say this: what you're measuring there is still 2,000 feet off the ground, so you're not going to quite get that at the surface. But that's what we've seen so far. Let's see here. There's other nice blue color on the screen, so there are other stronger winds embedded within this inside the actual rain. So when this rain comes down, there'll be downdrafts within that, and that will help to translate some of those stronger winds down the surface. So kind of what you get with the gust front is that initial surge of wind, initial pop. 50 to 55 is what looks like it's going to be more common. Remember, a severe thunderstorm wind criteria is 58 miles per hour, so that technically did even qualify here. But kind of gives you an idea of what's coming in to the northwest side of town. Other stronger storms out here in western Oklahoma. So this one right here in Carter, Willow, has some rotation with it. In other words, just strong enough supercell type characteristics. So it's going to produce some really big hail. All this white area you see here. These are DBZ values up around 70. So usually you get golf ball size hail or larger. If you do look at the hail probability, it's going big time hail, 3.75 inches in diameter. That's huge. Let me look at a couple of other different views on the radar. So I'm going to switch to, by the way, you guys up there in northern Oklahoma, all the major wind that you had earlier with your line is kind of diminished quite a bit. So it's more of a standard thunderstorm. You know, it's not a big line of just pure wind of 70, 80 like it was before. So more just commonplace thunderstorms for you. So let's go down here. I want to look at this one a little closer with the big hail. Ping pong ball size hail is reported in Beckham County near Sayre. So we do know it's got at least that in it. And there's some strong winds within this. There's the rotation area within that as well. So that's pretty potent. And then we'll take one quick look at this, and then I'll go back into the metro. That's up around 63, 66 dBz. So the biggest hail cores have actually already come down out there on that storm. That's a big supercell storm. So we'll have to watch that one over time. Just make sure it doesn't misbehave. Okay, so back in here, the metro. Again, you got the initial wind shift line has already come through the I-44 corridor and back into Mustang and Tuttle, whereas the actual heavier rain is back out here to the west. You'll have initial gust of wind first, and then you will have the rain-driven wind, or wind-driven rain, after that. It may take an extra 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, depending on where you live. If you live too far south of Oklahoma City, you'll get the initial wind shift, but you won't get the torrential wind-driven rain. Most of that'll be up on the north side of town. So let's see, back up here into Orlando area and Mulhall. So this is again between these two towns, right along 51 and 77. was the last known circulation center. Still there. Let's see, this is a little stronger here. This tornado vortex signature is still showing up on this guy. Wind speeds in there obviously pretty strong, about 90 miles per hour. So that'd be a small tornado. Actually, if you look at this intersection on 51 and 77, it's just to the southwest by about 2 miles on this latest update. So that is the latest with that one. So again, stay in your shelters for that particular tornado warned storm. Orlando's, of course, we've already passed that one. So Stillwater 11:18, Glencoe 11:27. But again, this original circulation will be long gone by then. So it's kind of a more of a short term where you currently are. Seek shelter until it passes it by. So pretty much until it gets to I-35. So it's at that intersection now of 77 and 51. All right. Back into the metro. Let's see you guys in Edmond, northeast side on I-35 corridor. These little blue spots. Let's see, winds up around 80 at, 1,500 feet? 1,300 feet. So you're probably looking at winds around 70 miles per hour. So we subtract 10 in this little zone up here, and that is on, let's see, it's just north 77 there, so that's gonna be on Danforth. Let's see here in Covell, so east of 35, Danforth and Covell, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. Now back here where the split is for the turnpike in 77, this little batch of blue, which is on Memorial and Santa Fe, and also in Kelly, that's probably the strongest winds in the metro, and that says up around 89 to 90 miles per hour, again around 1,300 feet. So we subtract 10 as a rule of thumb. So you're looking possibly as high as 80, probably more likely 75. That's still some pretty good wind in this little pocket area. That's damaging wind. And then back down south of that, south of the Lake Hefner, same idea. Some pockets in here around 80 to 85 miles per hour over the lake and south of the lake. Again, 1,300 feet, so again, we'll subtract at least 10 miles per hour for that. So still looking at about 70 mile per hour winds that are going through Oklahoma City at the strongest.
cell detected.
All right, so this is kind of what we expected on Thursday night. That didn't quite happen. Most of the winds behaved themselves. Tonight, they are not. Tonight, they're doing what the data suggested they would. Strongest winds on 2 parts of Oklahoma City, west side of the Hefner Parkway. All right, so from Lake Hefner down south to right around the Bethany area. And then the other stronger core is split on the northeast side of town of Memorial and 77. And these winds just went up another notch. They're up around 95 miles per hour. So you subtract 10, you're looking at 85 mile per hour winds in this intersection. So that's going to do some damage, just so you know. Straight line winds, so there'll be some damage to some homes around Kelly and also on 122nd. So Kelly and 122nd, just west of Eastern. So that is where the strongest winds in the metro are right now. We have winds in excess of 80 miles per hour. So you can see there's a few reports up here. Right here, see this green, tree limbs broken, 3-inch tree limbs broken. So that typically means that you had some damaging winds that rolled through. And if you look here, you can see some of that darker blue color go right through here. So that kind of goes to show you that where you have the darker blue colors, that is where we're getting the reports of enough damage to knock off some tree limbs. In this case, 3-inch size, which are pretty good thickness. All right, look at another radar viewpoint. So the Village, again, you're getting up around 80 mile per hour winds. The tornado warning, by the way, has been canceled from the National Weather Service from that old circulation. Bethany on both the northwest side and the southeast side, also getting winds up around 80 miles per hour. So that's going to continue. This is right along Northwest 39th Expressway, or known as 66, where it splits off of 44. All right, so that's kind of on the west side of the metro. Moving through the central part, just north of 44. So that's your other little pocket of wind up around 70 to 80. Let's see here. Some shingles blown off in Edmond. There's another patch of wind just east of Piedmont that's pretty strong, and some of the downpours, the downdrafts of those storms. All right, back out here in southwest Oklahoma. I just want to make sure this guy didn't do anything crazy. All right, the strong winds, hail, typical severe storm out here. So we'll keep coming back to that one just to make sure. All right, back in the metro. Let's see. I've already picked up about a half inch of rain in just, 10 minutes of time? So, very heavy rainfall moving through. All right, let me see. That Mulhall circulation, let's see, is what's left of it. Again, they canceled the tornado warning, but what's left of it is over Pleasant Valley Road and West 19th Street. This little triangle you see here. That was the last known location, just pretty much on Highway 86. And 51. So that's the area of circulation. You might still have a wall cloud with it, might even have a funnel with it, but that's where the last area of the QLCS tornado went through. So might it regenerate or might it touch down again? Sure, but right now there's no warning for it, but that's where it was last seen. Let's see, somebody did report a large wall cloud at least with it a few minutes ago. So that's what's going on up there in north central Oklahoma. Okay, so we did get a marker here for 3, right where we had those strongest winds. So it says 3-inch tree limbs down and power poles broken. So it kind of goes to show you that the strongest winds that we see on the radar are matching up with damage that's in the area. Okay, so let's see where that area has moved to. So it's shifted to the southeast, coming to Spencer, Forest Park, becoming to Midwest City soon in Tacoma Park. But right now it's over 63rd and Sooner. So if you live near 63rd and Sooner, you're going to get the strongest straight line winds we have in the city. And then that secondary batch is a new batch that has moved now close to the same area it already was before, and that's on the Turnpike and Eastern. Again, these winds up here, about 85 miles per hour. We'll subtract 10, so about 75 miles per hour. And then these up here, the strongest winds I see on here around 93. So we'd subtract 10, you get about 83 mile per hour winds. And that's going to be up around 800 feet. So we might be in more in the 5 to 10 mile per hour range of subtraction. So more of the 85 mile per hour wind range. So again, that'll do some pretty decent damage like it did up on the Turnpike around Eastern earlier and on 35. This is that little spot up here on 35 just north of 44. Okay, so those are 2 areas of damaging wind here in the city as far as the strongest winds are concerned. We do have some other winds, and they're still doing a little bit, like down here, see this little lawn furniture displaced. So there's still enough wind to kick stuff around elsewhere. It's just not the strongest of the strong. That's through Nichols Hills. Coming into downtown Oklahoma City here momentarily for the strongest winds there. Let's see, the winds that were the strongest out around Piedmont
TVSL detected.
and Lake Hefner, those have come down quite a bit. So right now, the kind of the east side is where the strongest winds are. You still have some residual between Piedmont and Edmond as this comes through. Now, in a lot of areas of Edmond, we have a lot of these smaller notations here of 1-inch tree limbs broken. So, not all of Edmond saw that type of wind. Like the biggest wind I got was 53. So coming to Spencer. This data's legit or not? I hope not. It says 105 mile per hour winds. I'm going to look at another different radar view. Man, I do have a lot of numbers in there. They don't look pretty, don't you? Now, the other problem is it can just be the radar struggling to convert the color palettes over correctly. That can happen when you have an extreme wind event. Like this is happening. See, it's kind of colored all red. It should actually be blue and green in here on this radar viewpoint, but it's not going to be. Let me switch radar sources to this one. See if that one read it better. All right. Well, I'm waiting on that one. We are up around 800 feet. And the strongest of the winds, so Midwest Boulevard, 63rd, and 36th Street. So right around Spencer and west by a couple blocks is where you're going to have your strongest winds right now. Okay, let's see if this thing got loaded. Yeah, this is a little bit better. Okay, so this is what I wanted to see, this viewpoint. And these winds in here, yep, around 90. Okay. That's what I thought. Those other ones were just a little too strong. It's like, I don't think they're going to be 100 miles an hour. But the 90 is plenty strong enough. So, again, that's around the Spencer area. Okay. Observe numerous power flashes to the north and south of I-40 at the Rockwall exit. Okay, that's just from the damaging winds. 67 mile per hour wind gusts recorded with the weather station on the Lake Hefner area. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this up. I'm going to see if we can find out here, see if there's a tempest that is registered. This one. Where's my wind? Northwest. Okay, that one didn't have it. All right. Wind gust 13. 72, 34. I'm basically looking through these tempest weather stations to look for wind gusts that were obviously quite strong. Alright. Because it helps to have verification from different observation stations versus just the radar estimating. And it's pretty localized, so it's like kind of like getting lucky to find one that was immediately impacted. All right, well, we'll come back to that, and I'll just keep looking off and on. All right, so again, Spencer right now is seeing the strongest winds here in Oklahoma City. The rest of the city itself and all these little blue areas, that's all, you got to subtract 10 because we're out here a little bit higher up, so technically that should be 60 to 65 mile per hour wind gust potential in this area, but I don't think we're quite getting that at the surface in all these different areas. I think we would know more. There'd be more reports coming in of damage that we're not getting. So there's going to be a little more overestimation of the strength of the winds there. All right, let me go up north again. Stillwater, you guys are in the path of what was left over from the earlier tornado warned storm. Again, there's nothing there though on radar, but the leftover spot is traveling right along 51. There's nothing that shows anything is going to regenerate, but that's where that is. So heads up, no warning, no tornado warning, no tornado currently, but that's just where that situation is. Okay, let's see. So the winds have all come down quite a bit since what they were before. So now they're kind of more tame, more reasonable. So now we're back just a standard thunderstorm wind. Which is up to about 58 miles per hour. So basically we'll end up with two really harder hit areas in the metro. So one will kind of be in the south end of Edmond, between like 35 and Broadway Extension, kind of in that little sweet spot. The other one will be northwest of Spencer. So those would be the strongest wind readings that we had on radar. Okay, let's see what else we have. For those that are probably curious, is there any tornado threat? And the answer is no, not this time in the metro. Just kind of a straight line wind event from this line of storms, mostly affecting kind of the northern and eastern sides of Oklahoma County, not so much the south or southwest. All right, there was a flooding notation here in Stillwater or Kingfisher, localized flooding, main streets. All right, let's quickly look back out here in western Oklahoma. All right, this is the other strongest storm. And now it's actually more than one. It was just one. Now it's several lining out. But it's got some good wind in it between Sentinel and Hobart. Some big hail with it. Torrential rainfall. So it's a good thunderstorm out here. Earlier it had some ridiculous hail size estimates, which has long since come down. Now it's up around 2 inches in diameter, which is obviously still big enough. All right, so that's what's happening out there. So let's do this. So we can focus on this tail end of this line here. This is where the gust front line had been plotted when the warning first came out, which of course so it's updated since then. So the timing of arrival, we'll just focus on the bottom of the table. Shawnee there about 11:25, Tecumseh 11:27, Seminole 11:41. Now keep in mind the winds are getting weaker and weaker and weaker with each passing minute. So we're on the kind of the tail end of this little squall line, and it's slowly falling apart. So you may not quite get the wind that we had here in many areas of Oklahoma City. Okay, so we're getting more of these little ping reports. So the ping reports are where like you make the report. You go out there, you've seen stuff, and you make a comment on it. And here we've got one near Jones, 3-inch tree limbs broken on the west side of Jones, north of Spencer, and we got one here just south of the Turnpike in 35, 3-inch tree limbs broken. Down here on 240 and 44, some tree limbs broken down here. Although strangely, we didn't have that many strong winds on radar down here, so doesn't mean all these reports be completely accurate, but they are public reports. Midwest City right now getting some good rain or good wind. Nothing crazy though. I think we're still probably looking more like this little patch here says 80, but we're probably still looking maybe more like 70. I still think these are overdone. And so what's going to happen here is this plot of wind that's coming into this fashion is heading right toward the radar right here. So like I did earlier this evening, we'll be able to see exactly how strong these winds are at the level that we, of course, live and breathe once they get in the backyard of the radar system and they're better sampled. at that point in time. But they should be weaker than what they were earlier. All right, let me see anything else going on up here in northern Oklahoma. No, everything looks good. That old circulation center, again, is nothing there anymore. So if you're worried about it in Stillwater or Perkins, everything's good for right now. So let's see, the movement on this was, well, it says east, but there's a southeast component of moving at 63 miles per hour with wind gusts up around 70 in the warning criteria. All right, so this little wind shift line has just went through the radar down here. So 66 to 70 is what it's measuring at the strongest numbers here. There you go, pink, there's 70. So it's small, it's not everybody getting this kind of wind, but some small areas are getting up around 70 miles per hour. So that's what we're able to measure. So that was pretty good to chop off 10 to 15 on the wind speeds that we were measuring earlier. So this is Twin Lakes radar site of the NextRad. So the winds are on southeast 149th and 120th Avenue Northeast. So that is where that is. That's the south of 40 by about 4 or 5 miles where these little batch of winds are. But still some other wind. Let's see. These guys are probably also up around 60 or so. Yeah, 60 to 70. And that's just south of Tinker and the split on 40 and 240. Southeast 89th. All right, so that is our gust front. That's also gone through Norman. But that's our gust front. That's way out ahead of the actual, storms themselves or the rain that'll follow. So if you flip this over to reflectivity, see, you can see how most of the rain is way up in this fashion, whereas the gust front is way down here. So it's separating quite a bit. So anytime you see a gust front separate this far from the line of storms that it originated in, it means that it's on a weakening trend and that most of the wind, the strongest wind, has already been released because the momentum is gone. A lot of the energy's gone and been used up. If this line was closer to the rain line like this, just very close knit, that's when you really get your strongest winds. But it pushes too far out ahead of the line. And then on top of that, then these thunderstorms here, they've lost their updraft feeding into the storms. So they start to weaken. So it's a combination of two things. You lose the most of your momentum for the wind, and then secondly, you start to kill off the updrafts of your thunderstorms. They start to weaken. So now they turn into rainmakers, not so much severe weather makers. They're loud, still, lightning, but that's that. So if we put this into motion, we'll see how this moves through the metro. So you see how this the rain actually moves from west to east, and the gust front is now moving from northwest to southeast. So what can happen here, and this is interesting, if you can get in a training situation like what we have, where you have additional rain that kind of stays in the same vicinity and it goes over the same area, you can get brief flash flooding. And in a populated metro area where you don't have a lot of drainage, you can pick up 2 inches of rain really quickly, like within a half an hour time frame, which can cause some brief flash flooding. So that's one thing that might be on our docket here through midnight to watch for. All right. You guys in southeast Oklahoma, it's loud, it's obnoxious, it's thunderstorms, nothing tornadic. Unfortunately, it's getting pretty far from the radar view, so my useful velocity data for wind speeds is not as beneficial. It's just an area of the state that just hurts for radar coverage. Besides that, it has to go through some other inversion stuff that happens with this boundary here, which kind of messes up the refraction of getting the energy back from the beam and makes this harder to ascertain. All right, so back here in Oklahoma City, this is the velocity wind product. You still see these little areas of light blue, so we're still looking at 50 mile per hour winds, occasional gusts within this, and that's it. So it's not even that big of a deal anymore, for the reasons we talked about before. And that extends up northwest toward Cashin, Kingfisher, etc. So from this point forward, the strongest straight line winds will no longer be here in Oklahoma City. They will be out in southwest Oklahoma. So they're going to be out here in Hobart, Mangum, for this just heavier thunderstorm that keeps developing. Some big hail too. These little white areas, again, golf ball size hail. So there's a 1.70 inch mark on the algorithms for the radar, which indicates again about golf ball size. Out here west of Babs, Hobart, 183, Cambridge, and Lone Wolf. Nothing tornadic or anything. Pockets of wind, and then the large hail core, and then more storms down Highway 9, Reed, and Benson, and Wellington. All right, so that's what's going on in southwest Oklahoma, and that activity is kind of drifting to the southeast direction. At one point, it had a really good circulation feature just southwest of Sentinel. Look right there. And then it since gusted out and didn't really do much. I don't think it really had much of a chance because there was already a gust line moving southward right here. See that right there, that fine line? So this inflow probably would have been tornadic had this not happened. If this right here hadn't gusted out ahead of time and undercut it, we probably would have had a tornado in Sentinel. So that's just an example of how it is so hard to get a tornado, and many things can happen that can ruin one to form. So that was an example of how we just watched that transpire. Anyway, so that's what's going on in western Oklahoma. Okay, so back here in the central. So the leading edge of this gust front has passed through Norman and Noble and Goldsby, McLeod, heading up through Pink, Bethel Acres, coming up on Shawnee. There's still some winds here in the Pink areas, which are still pretty strong, 60 to 70. So there's still going to be some areas going to get still some good winds. There was a little bit of trees here down in Norman. There's a Norman itself. Let's see, what is that? 1-inch tree limbs broken. Lawn furniture, trash cans displaced. Here's one that says 3-inch tree limbs broken on the west side of Norman near 35 on, let's just go see. Let's just go see who reported this. Someone who lives on Crestmont Street and North Mercedes Drive. They said, hey, we got 3-inch limbs down. And that's kind of the way that goes anywhere else where you see these little threes. So there's an ASOS report from War Acres of 59 miles per hour.
Severe hail detected.
All right, so this is a new track for the line of wind, which continues to diminish little by little. Let's see, Slaughterville currently with McLeod. We have Purcell in a few minutes in Pink, Lexington, Bethel Acres, 11:39, Tecumseh, 11:47, Paul's Valley at midnight, along with Maud and Stratford. And then you you have Wynnewood being in Ada coming in about 12:20 in the morning. So that's when this line of wind will get there. But again, every mile it goes from this point forward will continue to get weaker and weaker and weaker. All right, up here in north central Oklahoma, let's do the same type deal with it. I think we're here. So we already have Chandler and Cushing, but we have Stroud, Drumright, Bristow, Manford between now through 11:52, Sapulpa and Sand Springs around midnight. Getting to Tulsa just after midnight as well for that northern end of the line. So that is the northern end of the line where there will be probably pockets of wind in here as well. Now there hasn't been a lot of widespread public reports. Of damage, but there should be at least some. All right. So you can see all these little threes here scattered across the metro, Oklahoma City, for wind damage reports. All right, southeast Oklahoma, like I said earlier, the wind field is garbaged, so I won't be able to really tell you. Other than the fact you just know with standard thunderstorms you're going to have pockets of damaging wind. As you can see, you have a lot of lightning. This is one heck of an electrical deal. These little white numbers here, these are our little white icons. These are all lightning strikes, right? And you have a lot of rainfall. So that's another thing down here. If you're kind of prone to flooding, then that may be a problem for you as well. And let's see, western Oklahoma, same kind of deal out here. A lot of heavy rainfall, a lot of lightning. They're going to have pockets of wind. They've got the 70-mile-per-hour tag on it. I think that's just going to be a default tag for any thunderstorm warning. But same thing here with the rain being maybe too much in a short period of time. You might find yourself with some flash flooding briefly. Hobart, of course, you've already got the storms on top of you. Same thing for Mangum, Blair, and Roosevelt. Then we have Gotebo here in a couple minutes. Mountain View, Mountain Park, 11:51. Apache coming up after midnight, along with Medicine Park for this line here in western Oklahoma. So our little train of rain continues along I-40. So here in Oklahoma City, we're getting more rain. I've already got 1.12 inches on my Davis. Let's see. Tempest shows about 1. Alright, so a quick inch of rain is what we picked up in about 30 minutes here in Oklahoma City. Okay, so that's what we got going on. We have severe storms to the north, severe storms out here to the southwest, and severe storms down here to the southeast. None of these have tornado warnings on them. There are no tornadoes currently in the state. We do have pockets of damaging wind, and not really much in the way of hail in most cases, unless you're out here in southwest Oklahoma. Those storms out there still have the potential for some pretty good hail. Surprisingly, these ones down here in southeast, they don't really have a lot of hail markers on them. They're very well behaved for hail sizes. So it's just, you know, standard stuff, dime size, nickels. That's about it. And then, of course, not much really in hail for us here in central Oklahoma either. This has been more of a wind maker. So you have a rainmaker of the southeast, had a wind maker in the central, and you have a hail maker and wind maker in the southwest. Let's see, you guys are Stillwater getting some pretty good rain. So Yale, Oilton, Merrimack, Manford, Cushing, all getting some rain, a little bit of wind, a lot of lightning. Okay, so that's what we've got. So things are calming down here in the metro. There's still going to be continued severe thunderstorm warnings. Just because you might get these little cores, rain cores here, as they decay, they might shove down some wind to the surface. But if I look at what we've got going on, let's see here. I don't see anything like we had before. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's on the quieting down phase for us. The rest of the evening here to midnight will be this little bow echo segment here that are moving eastward. Anytime you have kind of a bow echo segment, you are pretty much guaranteed to get at least some damaging wind within it. So this, as you can see, will head toward Beggs, Mound, Sapulpa, and Tulsa as we approach midnight on the west. So you guys will experience winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, maybe up to around 70 at times. That's about it, plus the heavy rainfall. Let's see. Guys, your threat down here in southeast Oklahoma is a slow-moving cluster of rain with a lot of lightning with it. You'll have your little tiny pockets of wind. Nothing, though, tornadic at this point. There hasn't been anything tornadic in this whole batch that has formed and moved out of southern Oklahoma to your area, so that's been good. And then southwest, this kind of a mixed bag. Little wind, little hail. Let's see, hail size come down quite a bit there, 1.25 inch. So the hail sizes were pretty impressive earlier on, but looks like most of that has come down now. So that little flare up is weakening. I'm going to see something here. I think I may know why. Let me find out. That's what I thought. Okay, so part of the reason for the weakening phase of this is the outflow boundary that snakes in like this. So with the outflow boundary south of your cluster of storms, like I said in the earlier comments, you need a nice inflow of wind into a thunderstorm for an updraft. Okay, that's what you need. Problem is, if you have an outflow boundary going the opposite direction, which basically acts like a little mini cold front going in this direction, and you get it too far away from your storms up here, the updraft is too far away to be able to tap into this wind that rides up over this boundary. And so then they start to weaken. So far, that may be what's happening here. Because the severity of these were a lot stronger earlier on. Now, at some point, what can also happen is if the storm has a strong enough mid-level mesocycle, let's say there's a mid-level circulation right here that's just super strong, holding this whole thing together. And let's say this is your outflow boundary here, and here's your outflow boundary here. Sometimes what comes here is like a huge vacuum cleaner and wants to just suck the air up in between it, like this. And then what can happen is it can take the tail end of this boundary and shove it up here, and this gusted boundary will slow down and not be as prominent. And then this will take over, get much stronger, and then you end up in either a tornado situation or at least a longer surviving supercell storm with a better updraft inflow. So better warm, unstable air. And that would allow it to last a lot longer. And it could be hours, right? As long as it's got warmer, unstable air to feed it, then it keeps going. So these little boundaries can either give life or take it in the world of a thunderstorm. And either weaken it or give a little boost. Anyway, so that's what's happening out here in southwest Oklahoma. And regardless, whatever comes of this is going to be kind of heading in this fashion. All right. I think, guys in Shawnee, got that heavy rainfall knock on your door. I'll do one more look at the wind over here. Oh, well, let's go to the other radar. So you can see the rainfall is already really starting to wind down here in Oklahoma City. Got some good rain up here on the north side. That's about it. And then this stuff out here in Chandler and Sparks and Meeker, and now approaching Shawnee. Just some nice heavy rain with some lightning with it. Gust front is way out ahead of it, stretching from up here around, what is that, northwest of Bristow and Stroud. What town is this? It's underneath all this wording. I can't read it. Shamrock, that's what it was. Okay, Drumright, Shamrock. So that's where the gust front is actually caught up with the actual storm itself. So that's where your best, strongest winds will be. But regardless, the tail end of it goes past Stroud, almost to Prague now, Johnson, Shawnee, Tecumseh, all the way down to Purcell. It's like a mini cold front, but it's a gust front. All right, now as far as winds within that, yeah, they're not even anything significant anymore.
TVS cell detected.
Okay, let me see what Tulsa has to say for this little leading edge of the line out here in Drumright. All right, so same idea. Remember how I told you we had the bow structure you have to watch out for damaging winds? So this is now going to be the only game in town when it comes to damaging winds for the next couple of hours, or maybe even through the rest of the overnight period until it gets to Arkansas. So if you notice here, as a result, they put destructive in the severe weather tag. This is called a tag. All right, so the severe thunderstorm warning until 12:45 until 90. Max wind gust to 90 miles per hour. Moving east at 49. Damage threat, destructive. 90 mile per hour winds is destructive. It's like having a tornado at you. So let's take a look, and these values in here up around 90 miles per hour. Let me see if I can get above that level. There's a lot of RF range folding, which means the radar's having a tough time seeing how strong the winds are due to some limitations. Let's see, so we're in the mid-90s though. That's going to be at 4,000 feet. Let me go one below. Back to the surface, again, 90s. So I've got some mid-90s, and honestly, this little section right here where it's not measuring, it's probably closer to 100 miles an hour, and that's probably why the radar's having a tough time measuring it. It's like it doesn't want to believe it. That's at 2,400 feet. So again, we got to do our rule of thumb, which was subtract at least 15 miles per hour from the final number. If it's 100, for example, it puts 85. So we're looking at 85 mile per hour winds from around Yale to Oilton to Drumright is basically what that would mean. So let me switch radars to, let's go to the Twin Lakes, or the INX. We'll see what it says. Okay, same idea. There's the 90s, 99, This is why the other radar couldn't ascertain heads or tails of it. 112 miles per hour for Oilton. That has been the strongest wind measurement I have seen tonight. Now, that's at 4,500 feet. So it will not be 110 miles per hour at the surface. You're in the guessing category of winds at the surface at this point. We can use historical reference. In other words, where the winds been the strongest and what were the radar estimating at the time and at the elevation that they were in the past time. Well, we have never measured 110 at 4,500 feet. We were measuring like 90 around, I think it was 2,000 feet and I think 1,500 feet. And then once it got to the metro, we did have some pockets there around 1,500 to, I think they're right around that. So all that said and done, I'd probably still stick with 90 at a most strongest. And that's plenty. Here's 4,000 feet here. And the latest measurement is up around 110 miles per hour on an average. So that's ridiculous. But anyway, that's in the town of Oilton. This is right along Old Highway 99 and Old Highway 151 and West 71st Street, just west of South 497th Avenue West. So if you live in Oilton, you're getting pummeled with some wind. That's damaging winds. In other words, 90 mile per hour winds will do a lot of roof damage, a lot of shingle damage, barn, siding, roofs kind of deal peeled back. A lot of the times you'll see that, you'll think a tornado hit, when in reality it was straight line winds. So we'll see if we can't get any reports coming in from someone in this area, either Storm Chaser or Emergency Management or anyone. We'll see if that gets passed along. But that's the strongest winds we have in the state right now. And really the only story, not to take away from everybody else in the state, but compared to this, you don't have anything going on. That's just impressive. All right, let me look at some other radar views here. Let's see, Southwest Oklahoma. So our guy here is still trying to hang in there, but he's struggling. All right. Let's go here. Central Oklahoma. All right, tell you what. Let's go on over. Oh, let's do this. I know that's what I want to do. Let's switch to this guy. Okay. Yeah, the oh, I picked the wrong one. Hold up. Okay. Yeah, the radar paints a big purple because it can't calculate 100 and something mile per hour winds. Oh, that's crazy. Let's see, 96. It can go to 96, no problem. 98, no problem. It just can't get 100. There you go. I got these little purple areas down there, 101. Like right in here, it can measure 101. After that, it can't measure over 100 miles an hour. Let's see, that's at 1,600 feet. So yeah, definitely 90 mile per hour winds here between Drumright, Oilton, and come up toward Lawrence Creek in this range folded area on the radar view. Let's see here. All right. Let's switch this over to Tulsa. All right. So there's our little packet of wind. In this case, the purple is still up around 110 miles per hour. Just north of Highway 33, west of Highway 48, south of Highway 51. So it's this magic box right here. So you'll get some destructive damage within that. Now, the strongest winds have been kind of in this quadrant, like so. So we kind of missed, this reporting here had in Cushing had a 60 mile per hour wind. So we kind of missed where the strongest winds were, but they're also the strongest here, which means that by the time they get here to here, more than likely won't be as strong. You can only maintain your intensity for so long. So we're going to see what happens. But you guys up there in Tulsa, Manford, Sand Springs, Sapulpa, Kellyville, got some good winds coming your way. All right, I'm going to go back on the radar here. Let me see how far back I can go. Yeah, go a little further. We're going to see what Cushing got at the time. That was reported at 426. All right, so at the time, interesting, huge difference. Okay, this is helpful. This is what I needed. I needed an observation. All right, so this is emergency management. Now, I don't know how this was measured, though. That's the problem. No idea what unit this was, so the accuracy I'm not 100% sure on. All right, but whatever reason, it's for example, it's just had some blue and purple here, so it basically had 97 mile per hour winds going through Cushing at an elevation of 5,300 feet from the radar. At that time, the surface wind supposedly was only 60. That's a 40 mile per hour difference between 5,000 feet and the surface. So that's the kind of information that you need whenever you're limited on radar data and you're having to make a lot of assumptions. I could do this. I don't know if there's any Tempest stations up there. Let's find out. Let's go on over. Okay, anything up here? Okay, we got 2 Tempest stations. There's one on the east side of Cushing. It's got nothing reported, but the west side. West side had a wind gust of 41. All right, let's see. We got. Okay, so it's going through this little section here. There's one little sensor here. We'll see if it is it measuring wind for me? No. Why not? It's not measuring wind for some reason. It's not on the output. Well, that doesn't help me at all. That's the Freedom Hill Fire Department. Come on, guys, get your thing working. All right. Well, that's too bad. I was going to see what our winds were from this one, but work around it. All right, so we still have some wind speeds registered on the radar up around 110 miles per hour up here in Lawrence Creek. 116? Goodness. What is this? 113, 112. Man. So it's kind of like having a small tornado. Let me go back to my page here. So it's like having an EF1 tornado, just so you know. That's moderate damage, single roof damage, or excuse me, significant roof damage, windows broken, exterior doors damaged, mobile homes overturned, or badly damaged. All right, so it's kind of like having an EF1 tornado roll through for you guys over there in northeast Oklahoma. Come up in Lawrence Creek from Oilton, Drumright to Manford. So again, hence the key word here is destructive in the wording. Okay, so I did look at the weather service from Cushing Emergency Management, and they did get a 98 mile per hour wind, which sure beats that silly 60 mile per hour wind that we saw, which didn't make any sense to me. Okay. All right. The radar had 100 and something there, and Cushing, and I was like, and that report had 60. I was like, there's no way you lose 40. So anyway, the other report, a real report, came in at 98, so they didn't lose any from 5,000 feet to the surface. That's incredible. That's impressive. All right. So in other words, the destructive wording continues. And you're not losing a whole lot. The difference in the wind speeds measured at that elevation down to the surface, which is surprising. But anyway, it's still up around 100 plus miles per hour. Lawrence Creek, again, you're up around 110 to 115. And Manford, just on the south side, this is coming in to you. Right along, let's see here. State Highway 48 and 51 and 33. So this is kind of what I would cover for. I only usually cover tornadoes, but I make exceptions usually for significant damaging wind events and damaging hail events. So this is an example where a damaging wind event is doing a lot of damage like a tornado would, and over a larger area. So it's obviously a significant factor. All right, let's see here. We're at 2,900 feet. So I still have to think that you lose some component in the wind from a distance of 3,000 feet to the surface. By the way, there is damage reported in Cushing as a result of that. So we'll do a updated time of arrival for this line. So of course Manford's already on you. Sapulpa is next. Kiefer, Mounds at 1206. Glenpool, Sand Springs at 1207. Jinx 1209. Tulsa, Bixby, and Broken Arrow up to about 1218. Like I said, movement here was a pretty good clip to the east at 68 miles per hour. Max wind gusts up to around 90 miles per hour. Severe thunderstorm warning. Still got some very strong purple colors on here, which indicates wind speeds in excess of 110 in this little section. So Manford, you're gonna miss the brunt of the strongest winds. It's going to pass about, well, you do have some strong winds just on the south side of town, about a mile. But as far as the ridiculous winds, about 3 miles south of you. 3 miles. I should say 3 miles south of 51. So, because I know Manford probably that extends quite a bit out from that central point on the map. But Sapulpa, the strongest winds are probably just to your north. Sand Springs, you'll probably take it on the chin as far as the winds for you, and then looks like probably even Tulsa itself. Most of Tulsa. We'll see what happens. These winds can come down. So new update comes in. Again, the strongest winds south of Manford by a couple of miles, but there is a new batch that just came in on the west side of town that's actually pretty strong. It's up around 100 miles per hour. So Manford, you may have gotten it fine on that last scan, but it looks like this new scan is going to bring you those strong winds anyway, as they've expanded now to the north. Other strong winds from there go up to Cleveland and Hominy, Blackburn. So you guys will also see some strong winds up around 80 plus miles per hour. So there are power flashes in Manford. Okay, this is interesting. This is what the Weather Service just said, because they had said what I said about, 10 minutes ago, which was it's hard to imagine how long the bow echo can hold at extreme intensity. It should cycle down at some point. We just don't know how to gauge that. And so far, the radar trends are not down. Because it's true, you can't hold this forever. At some point, it has to recycle and lose a lot of this momentum, but it is going really strong right now. And it could happen any time. Like he said, there's no way to gauge when that process occurs. It just knows that it does. So in theory, this strong wind going through Manford, could drop its load right as it gets into the west side of Tulsa County, around Sand Springs, and that's it. Theoretically, that could happen. Or it could still sit there and hang on. Regardless, that is the damaging wind event right now going on in Oklahoma. And if it holds together, it means Tulsa, you might fare worse than what we did here in Oklahoma City. We had some pretty good pockets of wind here in town. There were some small areas, though, of winds that were up around 80 miles per hour, 85. We didn't have a solid north-south line like this with winds up around 100 miles an hour. That's completely different. So you're not going to do too well in Tulsa if this doesn't weaken. There's winds of 110. Goodness. Again, it's kind of like tracking a long-lived tornado. Wind here, this is measured at 2,700 feet. As you usually use a rule of thumb, which is 10 to 15 miles per hour difference. If that's the case, we're still looking at 95 miles per hour winds. Let's see. And reminder, these are all radar estimates of wind speed, so these are not ground truth. In other words, we don't always have sensors in the immediate paths of these deals. So let's see here. So there's a Manford station. That's not real time though. That's not helpful. Let me see if I've got a mesonet station out here. Oh, the Oilton. Let's see what they had earlier. Alright, they had only had a wind of around 50 miles per hour. That's completely different. I don't know where this station is located in relation to what we're looking on radar earlier, but Oilton had a really good wind damage potential, just like Cushing did. So I can't imagine that all of Oilton was wind free. So some winds also happening down there in Eufaula and Stidham. All right, so these winds up here, it's almost like there's a QLCS type tornado trying to form in this little area. Not that one needs to happen from what's already occurring, but we may end up having a quick wrap-up tornado taking advantage of the ridiculous wind speeds that are going back and forth in each of these directions. Let's see, because again these winds are still up around 115 miles per hour. Was that 117? That's the highest I've seen. 118 mile per hour winds. So we may So Sand Springs, right along 51 and south. So kind of runs east and west, but from Sand Springs south and west on 51 is the boundary of where the strongest winds are. You get up around 115 miles per hour. This is on West 51st Street South, South Coyote Trail, West 41st Street, South 145th West Avenue, and then there's Highway 97. Let's see what we have here. So Lot C. I would not be surprised if we had a tornado embedded within this. Just south of Lot C. Let's see here. On South 177th West Avenue, near that location. I'm not sure that would matter because it's already in that strength of wind damage anyway. But radar looks very suspicious to me. Okay, so this new, that's a mesoscale discussion. Let me make this quick. All right, right, winds greater than 80 miles per hour in Tulsa likely. Oh yeah, that's an understatement. Let's see. Bow echoes moving east at 55 knots, according to measurements of the bow's apex. In addition to the base velocity from Tulsa, showed estimate winds around 90 knots, around 3,000 feet above the ground. This should translate to significant wind gusts ahead of the bow at the surface. It appears that wind speeds of at least 80 miles per hour will accompany the bow echo as it moves to the Tulsa metro area over the next hour. Okay. So nothing new there. All right. So right now going into South Tulsa County, so it's coming up on Jinx into Tulsa County, so downtown Tulsa. The northern fringe of this may have a little QLCS tornado rolling right through the south end of Sand Springs into downtown Tulsa, just so you know. And then just from there, you have the area here of damaging winds itself. So there's a lot going on here in Tulsa currently. So you should treat this like a tornado warning, honestly. You should get away from the outside walls and windows, lowest floor, because it's a small area, but it's very, very potent. So currently right along State Highway 97 and just south of 51 by about a mile and a half. So that puts it on West 51st Street. I guess just the strongest winds, and that's up around 100 miles an hour. Gentry Way, did that say 127 miles per hour? Yes, it did. 127 mile per hour winds at 1,900 feet elevation. I don't think I've ever seen damaging winds that strong. 124. Again, Tulsa, you need to be in your shelters and treat this as a tornado warning. A lot of times you hear a severe thunderstorm warning and you're thinking it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes it isn't. But this is actually a big deal. This is actually a huge deal. So we're talking about 125 mile per hour winds coming into Tulsa. So that is let me show you what that looks like. EF2 tornado. All right, considerable damage. Roofs turn off well-constructed homes. Homes shifted off their foundation. Mobile homes completely destroyed. Large trees snapped or uprooted. Cars can be tossed. So again, on the tornado type situation, you have more volatility because you have more vertical lift, which can do some of the cars tossing. But the rest of the wordage and verbiage is pretty clear. You're going to get a lot of damaging winds. It's going to cause some problems over a very densely populated area. So between Jinx and downtown Tulsa is where the strongest winds will be. So again, make sure you're in your shelters. Weather Service issued a new warning for this. Let's see, this is the wording on this one, which is east at 47 miles per hour. Max wind gust now in the wording is 100 miles per hour. Damaging threat, of course, destructive. And let's do a storm track for the latest on this one. Let's see. Let's do this. We'll manually draw one because I'm not sure which one of these are supposed to be the most up-to-date. None of them look like it. We'll track just this segment of the bow because this is the strongest. What do you say, about 47? So Tulsa, of course, now Bixby here in a couple minutes. Turley, 12:22. Broken Arrow, 12:24. Sperry at 12:26. Owasso, 12:29. Catoosa, 12:30. Inola, 12:45. So this is, again, approximate arrival time. But the point is, if you're in this list, you are in the path of the strongest storms or the strongest storm, which means the strongest winds. So, it's interesting because the Weather Service has to abide by certain criteria when they issue warnings. Obviously, they can't issue a tornado warning for this, so they issue a severe thunderstorm warning.
TVS detected. Severe hail detected.
Trust me, they would prefer to be able to issue a tornado warning because it's obviously stronger verbiage, right? You're more likely to take shelter immediately from a tornado than you are from a severe thunderstorm. But in this particular case, it's the same issue here, which is away from all outside walls and windows, lowest floor. In this case, again, this is the strongest I have seen now, 133 miles per hour on the estimated wind coming into the radar beam at 1,700 feet. You could subtract, 10, 15 off of that, won't even matter. Again, you're looking at a very significant event here. On that last scan, the number came down just a bit. So the strongest winds happen to have occurred, I think, in this little zone right here where I do not see anything densely populated. Let me look at, here. I think it was in this sweet spot here, south of Sand Springs, where we saw that. Or was it up here on 44? No, it was here on 44. So that was on South 65th West Avenue, where that splits. Okay, so that's on Oakhurst. Yeah, so it was right here on Oakhurst. So this spot here. Okay, it was the strongest when it was right here. So there are a couple of farmhouses here, but it wasn't a big major community. So you're gonna have to trees here, etc. Okay, so that was interesting to know. We should, at this point, and this is different because a tornado will lift the debris aloft and pull it up into the atmosphere. A straight line wind event will just kind of blow it all sideways at ground level. So we may not be able to get much use out of the tornado debris signature that we could normally use. All right. So the strongest winds, again, going through Tulsa right now. From Sand Springs southward to 44, where 44 splits to 244 and goes through 75. So this is southwest Tulsa, and the wind speeds again are still strong. They're not as strong as they were. They've come down to 110, 115 miles per hour. So anyway, from 100 to 115 miles per hour, which is vastly different than what it was a few moments ago. Let me see if the other radar system is able to measure this, because it's a little closer. Okay, so there it is. Yeah, at 400 feet, it's got 91 miles per hour. So yeah, you're looking at 90 plus miles per hour wind going through Tulsa right now. I'll see if I can't get this on this one for you. Okay. Okay, wherever it says RF, that's where it's over 100 miles an hour. That's the easiest way to explain this, because this radar won't show us winds over 100 miles an hour. It caps, I think, at 101, I think was the max I could find. All right, so this is the quadrant seeing over 100 mile per hour winds coming through the west side of Tulsa. So right now running right along 244, so it's bounded by 412 to Sand Springs, down 244, where it splits down to 75. All right? So that is where the strongest of the winds are in this little quadrant. Now you are getting a secondary wind maximum here in Sand Springs on the west side of town. But right now, as far as Tulsa is concerned, this is the leading edge. Now the storm itself has already made its way into other parts of the city, down south heading into Broken Arrow, Bixby, and Jinx. What we're focused on is just the most damaging wind part of it. So you're going to still get some wind here, like on 169. But in comparison, it's nothing. And I hate to say that because it says 50 to 70 miles per hour. And that's very common that we saw here in Oklahoma City. We saw a lot of 50 to 70. But this seems so benign compared to what's out here to the west, which is well over 90 to 100 miles an hour. And at this point in time, we're only measuring a couple hundred feet off the ground. So this is 334 feet, 399, 483, 383, 306. So 206 feet. So this is, in all intents and purposes, ground level. So anything we measure here should be what is reflected at the surface. So on the south side of Tulsa to downtown Tulsa is where these damaging winds are going to occur. Again, we're looking at wind speeds over 90 miles an hour. In some cases, over 100 miles an hour. You are going to have other pockets of wind through Jinx. There's 70, there's 84, there's 83, here's a pocket of 90, here's a pocket of 92. And that's on 33rd and 61st Street. So East 61st Street and Harvard is where that little pocket of wind is. Down 33rd Avenue, East 71st.
Severe hail detected.
So between 61st and 71st and South 49th Street Avenue. And this kind of trails on back south. South 24th East Avenue, all the way to Jinx. Pockets of wind up here around 70 to 80 miles per hour. So you're going to have that. And then you have what's basically is like a large tornado. Is kind of what this is like in this fashion. Because you have a large radius here of winds that are in excess of 100 miles per hour. So I'm going to switch back over to the other radar because it can actually measure the wind speeds that are in excess of 100 if they're still there. So I can gauge just whether or not this thing's weakening or not. So Turley, still at about 100 for you coming in. All right. And then it goes through downtown Tulsa into the mid 80s. And then we've got... Let's see, from the crosshairs of 64 and 44, still up winds up around 100 miles per hour, 112, 119, 109 rather, 1,000 feet, so we'll call it good. So we'll subtract at most 5 miles per hour off of this. We're still looking at 95 to maybe 100 mile per hour winds. So again, this is right along Highway 64, and there's 44, so it's west of that interchange, so there's South Hudson Avenue, South 49th East Avenue, East 31st Street. So this right here is the strongest quadrant. That extends on southward to East 60th, right along Sheridan, South Sheridan Road. All right, it's also South 49th East Avenue. It's kind of bounded by those two to South 81st Street, East Avenue, and then 169. So this is coming into the northern and northwest sides of Broken Arrow. Obviously a lot of power flashes. Trees being reported down. Loud explosions being reported. Debris flying through the air. That was at 4th and Elgin. Okay. So we actually do have a debris signature because of that fact. We normally get that for tornadoes, but we actually do have it here. So in the heart of this strongest wind, we're actually getting damage being lofted up in the atmosphere. So let me see if we can look at that here. Alright, the data hasn't caught up yet for me able to see that vertically. Alright, I have to wait for that one. So basically we're watching a damaging wind event going through Tulsa right now. Doing a lot of damage. Wind speeds are still being measured up around 100 miles per hour. Between 44 and 64. Alright, so it's expanded a little bit now east and north. It continues up around from north downtown Tulsa to Turley, heading toward Owasso. Now this is not nearly as strong as it was. It's mainly right at 100 or less. This is right along though northeast side of town on 75 and 11, State Highway 11 and 75, the interchange. That's where that strongest wind component is, pushing to the north and east. And that's new. It has expanded a little bit in that area. It wasn't as strong before. And then down here in the other secondary cluster that's going through the north side of Broken Arrow and west of Fair Oaks, that one isn't as strong as it was either. Winds have come down from around 115 to about 100 in this area. Now there are going to be some hot spots here. Some of this data may be good or bad. Usually you want to just take a blended view of what's surrounding a data point to get more accurate numbers. So we're still probably looking at winds up around 100 or slightly less in a lot of these areas. And like I said, the winds since we're getting closer to the other radar, which is farther away on the east side of Tulsa, it's coming down in the wind in the elevation height, only 799 feet. So 31st in Peoria, they estimated a wind gust of 100 miles per hour. Okay, new data just comes in. So remember, this radar will update every minute or two. And we're back up to 112 mile per hour winds. So the lull in the strength of the winds has picked right back up. There's 116 mile per hour winds. And all this here is debris signature. So this is all damage being kicked up by those winds as they roll through Tulsa. So there's a lot of damage ongoing right now in Tulsa due to strong straight line winds in excess of 100 miles per hour. This current debris signature is East 21st Street. right, that's bounded from South 177th East Avenue and 145th East Avenue, and down here to East 31st, and there's East 41st. And that debris signature kind of runs down to 51 here on the north side of Broken Arrow, right along Concord. Let's see, let's go back up here north. Looks like some debris still on the northeast side here at 244 and 44. All right, so right now, that is the strongest winds that are going through Tulsa right now. About to exit Tulsa County and then move eastward from there. So Catoosa is in the path. Owasso, you will be getting some of the damaging winds. New Tulsa, Fair Oaks, Inola. Broken Arrow, you're kind of on the southern fringe of this. Let's see. Turley, you're out of the strongest of the winds. Right now, the most damage, which would be equated to a EF1 to EF2 tornado, is going through north side of Broken Arrow along 51 up to on the west side of Fair Oaks, which really almost all the way up to 412. It stops about a block short, but there are some other winds out here that west that will drift to this area. But these winds here are the ones that are going to continue to kind of come in this fashion. So this is a straight line wind, damaging wind event that probably has not been seen in Tulsa in years upon years. And I'm not sure even when. I lived there in 99 to 01. We never had anything like this back then. All right, let's see here. Still lots of pink on the map, and pink on the map is again winds in excess of 100 miles per hour. Some cases ridiculously so. 110 to 115. So is stretched a little bit now to the north as far as some of those stronger values. So from the split again, 44 and 244 on the east side. And then we still back up just a little over 100 miles per hour as you get up toward the split of 266. So that's the northern fringe of State Highway 266 and 169. That's kind of the western boundary. So that's coming in on the west side of Catoosa, south side of Owasso. Now, again, Owasso is not going to take the biggest hit. Catoosa, the way things are going, is probably going to take a pretty good hit. And, of course, Fair Oaks is. So, yeah, we have two areas now. It's kind of split. You have the Fair Oaks region, and then you have the, we'll go ahead and call it Catoosa at this point, because it's on the west side. It is pushing out of Tulsa. And these are the areas where we still have winds in excess of 100 miles per hour. Yeah, up around 115 in some cases there, and 118 in cases here. Okay, so there's a very densely populated neighborhood right here, Fair Oaks, that's getting these winds. And so that is on East 31st Street South and South 209th East Avenue. There's 217th East Avenue. And over here is 225th East Avenue. So you have friends or family in that area, you might want to check on them because that is some destructive winds. And then once we get back up here to this area, just west of there, you come up on South 161st East Avenue. Cross Street is East 21st Street South and East 11th Street. And that goes up to 44. And we cross over that to the north side of the highway. You get to Pine Street, Apache Street, and South Road 450th, which is also North Road 161st Street, East Avenue. And Tulsa has long street names. It's difficult to say a street name roll off the tongue. It's like 5 different words. All right, let's see. Now, again, this is not a tornado warning situation. It is a severe thunderstorm warning situation. The problem is it has tornado type winds in it, significant at that. So we're talking about EF1 to EF2 type winds. Wind speeds is what's been measured. At times since this thing rolled out from Oilton through Manford, where else? Sapulpa, Sand Springs, Jinx, Broken Arrow. So all along this whole area, really from about this point, when it was through, actually it was through Cushing and Yale's really when it started really going on the destructive side, kind of in this path here. And so all in here has varied with wind speeds anywhere from 90 to 130 miles per hour at times. Okay, so this is getting very close to the radar. What that means is it's just a good verification that the wind speeds that we're detecting are actually what's happening at the surface, because the beam is only a couple hundred feet off the ground. In this case, we're 300. And what is occurring at 300 feet? 113, 110, 114 miles per hour, 115, 116, 120. So again, 120 mile per hour winds are occurring, coming in, paralleling 412, coming out of Fair Oaks, heading toward Inola, north of New Tulsa. The major intersections that this is on: South Road 273rd, East Avenue. Then we have 280. Let's zoom in a little bit more. East 31st Street, East 21st Street, Old Coweta Road, and come up on South Road 305th, East Avenue. So that's the strongest wind speeds. The second area of the strongest wind speeds is going through Catoosa. And I think you're closer to 100. Well, there's some spots up around 110 or more. There's that one spot there, 114. Here's some up around 110. So you're about 100 to 110 miles per hour. Storm Tracker supposedly just referenced or measured 100 mile per hour winds in Catoosa. That's on East 570 Road and South Road 4070, North Frisco Street, East Apache Street, Tiger Switch Road, East Pine, of course State Highway 66. So pretty much the entire area of Catoosa is seeing wind speeds of at or greater than 100 miles per hour. So again, this is kind of a what was supposed to happen Thursday night. The data was very similar. The forecast was basically rinse and repeat tonight from Thursday night. And Thursday had, the data had pockets of winds of 90 miles per hour. And today was supposed to be very similar. And we didn't see it Thursday. And I didn't go back and analyze as to why. I just know it didn't happen. It was strange. We should have and we didn't. And yet tonight we do. All right, so a large area here of Catoosa is still under 100 mile per hour winds. Radar beam estimation is probably around 400 feet. Yeah, there's 500. There's 470. All right, then down here, of course, radar beam is literally 100 feet off the ground. and we're still at wind speeds up around 100 plus. So that's come down just a little as well. So here's the other issue is, so the storm is hitting the radar. I mean, it's coming right toward it. The next rad will have a backup generator. So when it loses power, it'll switch over to generator mode, and so the radar will keep going from that. Now, the other issue is the radome. The radome itself is rated to a certain wind rating to not cave in from a straight line wind event. And that can be up around 200 miles per hour. I don't remember the exact specs. It's been a while since I looked it up. But bottom line is, because the radar is going to take a 100 mile per hour hit on the wind speed estimations, it should be okay. It should keep operating. All right. So let's see. The Weather Service is going to issue a tornado warning for this Oologah storm because it looks like right here we're going to have a QLCS type tornado develop. I know that sounds, honestly, in this tornado will actually do less damage than what that straight line wind event's going to do, but it gets the tornado warning, the other one doesn't, right? It's just the way it goes. But foil here at 1:02 in the morning, it won't last that long, but that's the path it's going to take it toward. So really right now, Oologah is the only place that needs to be immediately in shelter. QLCS tornadoes don't last 20 or 30 minutes. They only last a couple of minutes usually. But anyway, so that's the path of the tornadic warned thunderstorm for that QLCS tornado. Moving to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. So as official tornado warning, so be in your shelters. The path, the location of this is on East Road 430, an intersection of 4090. That's where that tornado is going to be located. So be in your shelters if you live in that intersection. That's about 1-2 miles south of Oologah. So that is our first tornado warned storm in the last, I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while. Hour or two. Haskell has had there's a lot of power outages everywhere, and there's a lot of transformers blown. It's a big mess, all in around the Tulsa area. And same thing in Oklahoma City. We got hit with a lot of winds too, so there's a lot of power outages in our area as well. All right, so this is the current circulation. So this little arrow here marks the spot of the last location on it, which was 4090 and 4030. So that is that location of that QLCS type part of the storm. All right, so the strong winds have gone over the radar. All right, so now they've gone from a southwest to northeast fashion. So we switched the colors. So now instead of going the blues and the purples, we now go to pinks and oranges. So in this particular case, now that it's gone through, it wasn't a weakening trend. And so the wind speeds here are much weaker than they were approaching the storm. So they're in the 70s to 80s. There's a little spot here in Inola where they got a lot of data here that's a little excessive. I think some of this is going to be garbage data. But there's probably going to be some truth to this that's up around 100 just because of the history of stuff. But that's going to be the north side, and that is on 590 and 4210. South 4210 and 590 to Broadway Avenue. So that is where you're going to find your strongest winds in Inola. It's up around 100 miles per hour. The rest of these are more behaved around the 80 mile per hour mark. I hate to say behaved at 80, but that's what they are. Okay, the other batch of winds is also coming down that went through Tulsa, and these are also now in the 90 category. There's still a few purple spots in here, so that'll get you up to about 100. Like that right there. So there's a few of those in here, but most of these are in the blue, which is going to be in the 90s. So that's come down some. That's around Apache, East Road 550, and South Road 4130. That continues to move east. So if you're on the east side of Catoosa, a couple more minutes, this will be out of your area and onward. I know, again, you're getting the heavy winds right now with the estimates up around 100 miles per hour. There's a 4 marker in downtown Tulsa. Let's see, southeast. This says trees uprooted or snapped. So trees uprooted or snapped is usually a tornado thing, or in this particular case, a very significant wind damage event. And we can look at the location on that report. That is going to be on Terwilliger Boulevard, the intersection of East 24th Place and East 26th Place and St. Louis Avenue. So that's where that wind damage report came in. So if you live in that area, then you probably know. You can probably vouch for that. Okay, so the strongest winds, again, expanding across Inola. You see a lot more of this orange showing up, right? So that's all 90 plus mile per hour winds. See all that? Now the yellows do sneak in there, and it's got some noisy data in it. I'm not buying all of that, so let me go up a tilt. Yeah, I thought. So this is 110 miles per hour. If I go up 3 tilts, it gets me to 455 feet elevation. All right, so we're still looking at winds of around 100 plus miles per hour. 110. That's easier to believe than these little winds up around 145. Okay, so back to a quick little update here on our Oologah tornado. Hopefully you guys have been in your shelters up here. We do have a gate-to-gate type situation, so it looks like that circulation's still hanging on. Let's see if we have any debris signature. And it looks like we might, this guy right here. Let me go take a look at a different radar. Yeah, that certainly could be the debris signature for this tornado. So that tornado did pick up some of the trees and some damage within this. On the path, it was over, again, a lot of open farmland. Now there were some farmhouses here. There were a few in the path. Otherwise, a lot of trees. So odds are the debris signature is a lot of trees, but there probably has a couple farmhouses, so hopefully people sought shelter and made out okay. The debris signature continues, so the Weather Service has confidence that there has been a tornado on the ground. So when that happens, they turn the warning polygon into a pink in this case. So this just came out. So it says... confirmed tornado located 4 miles southeast of Oologah, moving east at 55. Damaging tornado. Locations in or near the path is Chelsea, Adair, Bushy Head, Oologah, and Foyle. This includes Interstate 44 between mile marker 264 and 269. So just a stronger wording that a tornado is currently on the ground and doing damage. This is based off the debris signature, which is this blue color right here on the screen. All right, now that blue signature has just dissipated quite a bit. Yeah, it was a weaker tornado. How you can tell on this vertical slice in the atmosphere. This is the debris signature at the surface. And remember, we're tilting it vertically. And where did it take the debris? It only took it a couple hundred feet off the ground, okay, in this area. To probably maybe about 1,000 feet. If it was a very strong tornado, the debris signature would have been strong and have been lofted all the way up to 5,000 feet or more. So that's how we can tell it was a weak tornado, and that was the debris signature for it. And if you look, this is what's left. So you don't have a good solid blue core anymore. So I go back, see how the blue core solid right here? And go back another one, and go back another one, and back another one. See how it's been tracked in the core? So now that we're on a current frame, it is diminishing. So let's take a look at the velocity data, and that should confirm, and it does. See, we're linear. We're not gate to gate. So if I go back, okay, so there we go. There's a triangle, but we also had a nice convergence of both the green and the red together. That's our couplet. And if we go here, the couplet's still there, and then there it's still there, but it's a lot weaker. Colors are a lot less bright, and then there we go. That one's starting to fall apart, and that's the leftover region right there. And there's no tight gate to gate anymore. So that shows that the tornado has likely lifted and is no longer a threat. So it's over. So QLCS tornadoes often don't last very long. This one actually lasted pretty good. It lasted for a few volume scans, but it didn't quite make it to foil. But that's how that works. So anyway, so we'll see if something else tries to redevelop out of that old area, or if we wait for a new one, or maybe nothing happens at that point. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Let's go to this broad area. See all the orange? This whole region, east of Inola to Maisie to Shoto. This is all 90 to 100. So we'll flip it over to the other radar view here for you. We'll look at something real quick. Okay. All right. So this was again bounded between Inola to Shoto and 69. And look at these numbers. Still around 90, 99. There's 106, 103, 102, 105. So it looks like, even though it still is holding together, the trend has been ever so slightly just to lower the peak wind speeds little by little. So we're looking at 100 or less in most cases, and we'll give you some streets here. So there's 412. Again, there's 69. So from that intersection to the east a little bit, by about a mile or two, and then everything to the west, all the way back to just about Inola. So we'll cut it off at around, let's see here, 4240, South Road 4240. That's kind of the western fringe of where the strongest winds are. And then after that, it's 4260, and then it's 4270, 4280, and then 4293. The town of Arcoma, 90% without power. All right, I'm going to do something here. All right, so on the Oklahoma power outages, just from OG&E, there's 50,000 without power in their service area. And that's kind of split down here around Ardmore, which you guys had a big storm down there tonight. You did have winds in excess of 70 miles per hour. And then, of course, we have a lot of power outages up around Oklahoma City. You got scattering of power outages up north and west. Now it's a different co-op out here in the east. So let me see what else I got on here. Let's see. It's for Arkansas. Yep, Arkansas. So for the co-op, we have another 32,000. So Tulsa's obviously in that one. There's a lot of red counties up here where you have 1,000 plus. And then let me do kind of just a state summary. 91,000 total out of power for Oklahoma. All right, let's see here. Okay. So the TIDWAR data, at least on this viewpoint, went down as the storm was approaching. Let me see what else I got. Let me switch this one over. There's a 90 mile per hour report coming into Tulsa. Let's see. No, that's old too. Yeah, so that radar went offline. Yeah, this was between Manford. That was a 90 mile per hour there in Sand Springs. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so we're just down just to the one radar to view what's going on here in eastern Oklahoma, which is fine. It's in a good position. Again, the old warning area for foil, there's no more tornado with it, but the old circulation is passing between you and Bushy Head. You never want to discount a tornado warning, by the way, but it's just good to know, peace of mind, that there's not one currently as you are seeking shelter, right? Now, if you do look north of here, there is a little guy right there that's trying to do something, but it's very, very weak. So we'll see if something forms out of that one. But for right now, it's too weak to do anything with. All right, so let's go. We're back to then, and that's the case. We're back to the straight line wind focus. Looking at News 9, they have a new guy who's doing the 1 a.m. report. He looks like he's 12 years old. I just remember thinking back when I was young. I looked really young for a while. I had the Brad Pitt disease. Still do. At the age of 50, man. I'll be 50 in like 2 months, 3 months. That's lame. Lame, I say, lame. All right. Anyway, so what's going on here in Choteau is still a sign of some damaging winds. Matter of fact, I believe that is the strongest. I'm still watching this little circulation center right here, by the way. If it gets any better, I'll let you know. But again, east of Inola, 412 and 69. This up here has the winds that are still being estimated up around 100 miles per hour. It just will not die. It will not stop. It's going to make it all the way to Arkansas. This, it looks like it just is what it is, and it's varying in intensity. It'll go up, pulse up, it'll go down, it'll pulse up around 90 to 100 to 115. We've seen it, so they're still pretty close. Some numbers up here. Anyway, that's right along 412, so that is where your current wind damage is going to reside. Let me see if we still have any type of debris signature. So let me go over here. No, not on that viewpoint. All right, so again, Locust Grove, be prepared. You will be experiencing some winds in excess of 80 miles an hour, at least on the south side of town, pretty much right along 412. The bulk of the wind, stronger than that, looks like should stay just to your south, unless something pops up. That's where that track is going. The other one, Sportsman Acres, between there and Choteau, is the other little hot spot. That's still traveling along 412. So in theory, you could get kind of 2 rounds to hit you. The first round, the leading one, and then the secondary one. But again, that's along State Highway 412B that runs north and south to Sportsman Acres. And then Choteau, you're now beginning to get out of the strongest winds. They're now moving east of you. Still running along 412. And 412 Business. Coming up to about Highway 82. Let's do a storm track on this. Let's see, this one. That one's... I'll let that one. That one's better, I suppose. So we got Locust Grove basically now. We have Salina coming up, Jay, Silent Springs, Grove between now and 125. It's about the next half hour to Gentry and Gravette. And that, of course, takes it further and eventually goes into northwestern Arkansas and southwestern Missouri. Look at all these 3s. See all these old 3s? This all represents wind damage all in around Tulsa County. And this is 3-inch tree limbs is what this is a public reporting for. So there's a lot of those reports. All right, let me see if this thing is doing anything. Okay, so that little thing I was watching coming into Chelsea, looks like we're probably going to have a tornado for that one. So it'll be in your shelters for that. It's approaching you here now. Big cabin coming up, and then also Ketchum. But again, that rotation by then won't be holding together, but we'll watch for others that may try to form. Let me go up here. So there we go. So yeah, Weather Service saw that and then just went ahead and issued. So this is tornado warned storm for a storm moving toward Chelsea, east at 45. Let's see, Bushy Head is also in the path. This includes Interstate 44 between mile marker 266 and 269. So radar indicated rotation within this one. Now they colored it purple, and I'm not sure why. It's usually reserved for spotting unless there's a debris signature. And let me see. Yeah, I guess there was a debris signature on that one scan. It's possible. Let's see. That was also... Yeah, it's tough because it's going to be commingled with the leading edge of this, which is other particulates like insects and stuff along the leading edge of a gust front. So that may not actually have been a debris signature. It had been hidden within that, so you wouldn't really be able to know. But regardless, it's a tornado warning, so be in your shelters for Chelsea. And honestly, the circulation center has already gone. That's when I looked at it last, and I thought, that's almost tornado worthy. And then there it was, they issued the warning, and then that was still decent, and then now it's gone. So you got a couple scans of radar data, and that's it. But anyway, stay in your shelters regardless of that thing lifted or not, since it is coming over your town right away. And then we'll kind of keep focusing on these strong winds just for a little while longer. Okay, so there's a secondary, and this is probably going to cause a QLCS tornado to develop northeast of Pryor. This guy right here. It's got winds up around 100 miles per hour south of Adair. It's moving to the northeast towards Strang. Let's see here. So that is North Road 4360 and West Road 450. So that's the intersection 1, 2, 3 miles southeast of Adair, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles west southwest of String. So let's take another view of that one. Remember, you guys in Chelsea, stay in your shelters. When we get our new radar scan, we'll see if anything comes of this. You should have a new update here in just a minute. So this little spinning icon represents a circulation trigger in the algorithms on the radar. All right, Chelsea, again, that old circulation is right above you, so hang in your shelters for a few more minutes and it'll be gone. Again, nothing radar indicated that would suggest a tornado is still ongoing, but you are still under that same region, so a few more minutes and you're good to go. Okay, so again, the Locust Grove area, you guys just, the secondary round of wind coming your way. Let's see, winds coming down, like we talked about, that's good. They're up around 80 to 90. Just the leading edge right here is the strongest, around 90 to 95 on 412. That's it. Otherwise, this big area here continues to drop. It's not, overly fast, but it is dropping. It's still a large area of wind, though. It is destructive wind. So it's still up around 80 plus miles per hour. But hey, better than being 105 to 115. All right, so this guy up here is still trying. All right, so that tornado again is gone. for you guys in Chelsea. Big cabin, you're in the path of the next threat zone of just the leading edge of the storm itself, which had a couple of areas before which try to produce little QLCS tornadoes. Let's see here. Nothing else down the south. So the Weather Service looks like it's going to go ahead and issue a tornado warning for this little area I talked about coming into string. So it'll be for this area here. So the warning will come out here in a minute. So this area here is tightened up just a little bit better. And that is on, what road is this? Give me a road. East Road 420 and 4390. North Road 4390. So that's 2 miles west of String. Alright, now it's over the river, just north, this little section here. It's really not that strong, and it's really not that tightly wound. So there's the warning, just came out. So they're going to put the center of it now in this location. East Road 410 and North Road 4420. So that is for this guy here. And again, it won't last that long, but this is the track it's taking it towards. These are all the communities involved. Pensacola, Langley, Disney, Grand Lake Town, Grove, Southwest City, Noel, etc., between now and the next half hour. So it's moving to the northeast at 66 miles per hour. Warning goes until 2 a.m. But oftentimes they will cancel it once the circulation has completely dissolved. Or sometimes they'll do a very short box like this one here for Chelsea. It was a very short box and it's pretty much out of that box. So let me see, what time does this one expire? This one expired at 1:15. So they did a really short warning on it. Well, actually not too short. It had 35 minutes. But it's pretty much out of this little zone already. So it'll just cancel or expire. All right. So the winds here up around 90, 94 on this leading edge, which is the strongest, along 412. It's the county line right here. So still it's kind of jotting more to the northeast, so it's getting off of 412 finally. So it'll miss you guys in Kansas, the strongest of the winds, unless something again were to happen here in this area, which doesn't look likely. It looks like the strongest core is kind of doing this fashion now. And all of these winds in here have backed off anyways to around 80 miles per hour. And let's see, where am I at? I'm back up to 1,400 feet, so we do have to subtract a little bit for that for frictional effects. Alright, so String, hopefully you're in your shelters. Hoot Owl, this is all north of you. Spavanos is north and west of you. Excuse me. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm out of juice. Once this little weak circulation here dies off, which it's about to, for this QLCS tornado, I'm probably going to sign off and let this one go. Not because I don't love you guys out here in southwest Missouri and northwest Arkansas. It's just that the severity of this line continues to drop off every passing minute, so it won't be nearly the story it was over this last 2 hours. By the time it gets to you in both of these states, it's going to be your standard thunderstorm wind, 58 to 60 miles per hour. So you're not going to have 80, 90, etc. And then the other storms out in southwest Oklahoma, they've fizzled and fell apart and moved east, blah, blah, blah. And then the ones down here in southeast Oklahoma moved into Arkansas. There's some wind damage reports down here in McCurtain County. There's a 61 mile per hour wind gust. '59, 61. So your marginal severe thunderstorm winds down here looks like. You do have a tornado warning out here in Arkansas for this guy near Clarksville. All right, so this one has pretty much fallen apart, but you can stay in your shelters, Langley and Disney, until this little circulation feature passes you. It'll do so in the next, it won't take long, a couple more minutes. Even though there's no more indication on the radar that there's still something there. But it'll get past you here in a minute. Let's see. All right, I'll take one more look here in central Oklahoma. Okay, little weak storm with some lightning. West of Pink, down in Noble, Pauls Valley, Wynnewood. Just a rainmaker, still a very loud rainmaker. No big deal. And then the guy down here, it's no big deal either. So nothing to worry about here in central Oklahoma, just some beneficial rain. Look at all these little wind reports, though. Here, 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 here. A lot more wind reports tonight than last night. Look at all these. Look at all these wind reports. So tonight was actually the night where the atmosphere produced what it was supposed to do. All right, one more look here in the northeast Oklahoma, and then we're going to wrap this up. So what can happen from here on out? Because the strongest of the strong when it comes to the winds are dying off. I'll do a track here on this, by the way. So there you go. There's the communities involved. Siloam Springs, Grove, Gentry, Decatur, Knoll, Anderson, Bella Vista, Goodman to about 1:50 in the morning. Rogers at 1:52. So of course, it's in Arkansas by this point. And Prairie Creek at 1:55. But anyway, so what you're going to have here with that line I just plotted you is winds anywhere from 55 to 65 miles per hour. And then as far as the little tornado threat, that's still possible. It would be these little QLCS deals that just come up. They're very short-lived. They're very tiny. They form these little jettisons. And if they can get enough spin, they do something for a couple of minutes. It's a weak tornado. It's like E of 0. It's nothing to worry about. But that can still occur while you have this type of a configuration of a squall line to deal with. It's not common. You may only get one. You may not get any. It's possible. It's just not something you can't rule out. Like the one we just had, for the straying area, but it didn't last very long. It was very, very weak. Anyway, so let me look at the velocity one more time, then see if I can see any more. Nope. Nope. And then the winds here, 91, 93, 90, 88. So you still have this one little favored zone of wind going this direction, passing just north of you guys in cold core and again north of Kansas. So in between, and it's shrinking and getting weaker with each passing radar scan, so that's good. Little by little. It's not going to be quickly, but it's getting there. By the time it gets to the state line, I think it will be. All right, so that's it. There's no tornado left with this one. In Langley and Disney, stay in your shelters, of course, because you never want to disregard a tornado warning. But there is no tornado warning at this time, and it doesn't look likely a new one will form at any point in time in the near future. Can't rule out something later, another QLCS type development, but not in the near term. All right. So
all clear. There are no storms presently in your area of interest.
All right. So my computer's telling me it's all clear. Well, that's good because I'm signing off. Anyway, so that was the coverage I had for you this evening. Hold on. Those little jettisons, as it says all clear, I look at the radar real quick. I'm going, oh, there's a little circulation there. So maybe if I hang on another second. Yeah, let's see. All right, hold on. Let me go back. Because as soon as I sign off, there'll be a tornado warning. So we don't want that to happen. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so there might have been some wall cloud action up around Big Cabin on 44. Very, very weak. These colors represent very weak winds. All right. Now, where things probably a little bit better is this where this little triangle is forming, east of Spavinaw and north of Ucha. So this would be a potential QLCS development in the data. That's right along Highway 20. And then I was watching this other little deal here and this other kind of stuff in here. I'm going, anything going to happen here? So it's, wait one more scan, and then we'll see if that one does it. That'd be my guess, is this one right here. Let's see, what time is that? Okay, well, you know what? Let's just assume that this is going to produce a QLCS tornado. All right. So basically, this is the area it will be in. So I'll give you some streets here. 20. This is Highway 20. Let me see if this will work better. Come over here. And let me flip this over. All right. Doesn't look nearly as good over here on this map. Anyway, State Highway 20 and North Road 4520, and then there is State Highway 28. So it would form basically in this area here. Doesn't look all that great, but let's just say that that's eventually tightens up and produces a QLCS tornado. That's the location that would be. All right. Now this thing would work its way in this fashion here toward 127 and 59 north of J. So it won't hit J. It'll pass to the north. And it'll probably fall apart by the time it gets here. So that's where that, assuming that develops, that's where that QLCS tornado will go. And looks like that's it. So again, there's not one there yet. One hasn't formed. It was just a little inflow notch. which sometimes that happens. You gotta look at these little notches and you just watch them and wait and then see if they do something. Anyway, so that if that were to eventually do something, that's the location it would do it in, and that's the path it would take, and it's in between towns and cities, so that's good. All right, I'm exhausted. So it's what, 1:30 in the morning. I'm gonna head out, but I do appreciate you guys watching tonight. Appreciate your support, liking, sharing the content. I know it's a lot lower key than you're used to, because I'm exhausted. But we just talk about the science of the weather here. We just track the radar. We tell you all about the ins and outs, and that's about it. We can keep you safe. We track it street by street, and that's about it. So, all right, listen, I got to get out of here because I don't even know what words to say. I'm so tired. So, you guys sleep well tonight. Be careful. Use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It'll keep you safe at all times, 24/7, 365. You can download on Apple, Google Play. Just search for AT's Weather to Go, all one word. You can type in my name, Aaron Tuttle, AARON. And then, let's see, finally, there was a finally somewhere in there. What was that? I don't know. I had a finally, then my brain just said, no, I'm going to bed. So, anyway, that's it. So, the rest of the weekend looks good. I'll try to put together a forecast. I don't know if I'll do it tomorrow or maybe on Monday for the rest of the week. Technically, though, we're still in our severe weather season. It ends roughly the middle of June every year. So when that happens, there's always usually some play in the days. And then we can kind of have a different, not necessarily a tornadic situation, but we get some of these MCS events where we have these storms that roll off the high plains from Colorado, and sometimes they bring wind and a little bit of hail and also beneficial rain into at least the first few weeks of July. So that can usually happen. And those sometimes roll in either late, at night, like at midnight to 2 in the morning, or sometimes they don't get here till like 4 or 6 in the morning. But that's something else that can happen. Let's see here. Anything else? I'm just looking at that radar while I'm talking to you to sign off. That little spot I was telling you about looks a little stronger on the wind field, so it looks like it'll probably try to do so. I think that's it. So I'm going to get out of here. But again, appreciate your support, liking, sharing video content, joining Facebook fan subscriptions, YouTube, Super Chat. There's Gab. There's Rumble. There's... I'm losing some. But anyway, you can see a lot of stuff on my website, aarontuttle.weather.com. You can go there anytime and get all kinds of weather data information. You can find ways to support me there as well. All right, I'm out of here. You guys have a great night tonight. Sleep well, and we will see you next time. Take care.